Hello, hello, and welcome to September. I, don't hide the fact that September is my favorite month of the year, but I'm so done with the summer. I've mentioned this before, and I'm ready for it. Fall cannot come any sooner. Like September 22, I think. And I'm ready. I already decorated my apartment. I I think of, more decorations that I could get, but it's a process. But we are here and we are excited and goodbye August, hello September, a new beginning. Literally the last third of the year, which is crazy, but here we are and I am all here for it. I'm so excited. I feel like first of all, I love September because obviously my birthday is September 12th. And of course, I'm biased to the fact that I'm born in September. It is honestly like my entire friend group, probably like 80% of this friend group was born in September, which I love. Like, granted, September is such a busy month for me, and it's only busier this time around because we're celebrating like babies and weddings, even though the only wedding I have coming up is in October. But weddings and baby showers and gender reveals, and I think like just generally like looking at like just how life has changed the past like 2, 3, 4 years even. We are now like coming into a different age, I think. Like September and honestly summer in general, like it was fun, but it definitely wasn't like as unhinged as it used to be. Like I think that in the past 2 years, like it definitely has calmed down, but I think it's like just now starting to hit me how old I am. Like just how different life is, and it's so weird. Like people are getting houses, and like birthdays used to be going out and going crazy, and now it's like house party, and I'm here for it. Listen, there's a ton of things that I miss, and there's a ton of things that I don't, and I think a lot of what I don't miss is like how much I spend on like drinks. Granted, now it's like no longer like a $10 LIT at Rutgers, but now it's like one drink is $20, and I think that's the painful part. Like everything is just so expensive. But anyways, I digress. Y'all, I have so much pent up energy about The Bachelorette. And I know like people listening probably may not watch The Bachelorette, which is fine. Like, granted, I haven't watched like The Bachelor slash Bachelorette. I kind of faded away from Bachelor in Paradise as well, but I wanted to give this a chance. Why? Because Jen is the first woman of color who is the Bachelorette. And I think that's crazy. Like, woman of color meaning the first Asian American, obviously. But I just like the whole season, just, I don't know. They did her dirty, and let me tell you why. So, first of all, from the jump, this slate of bachelors was just not giving. And there were a few that, like, I think I, like, genuinely thought, like, oh, he's a nice person. But honestly, like, 80% of the group, I was just not feeling. And whether it be, like, all the drama that happened before, because I know there was, like, rumors going around that it was supposed to be Maria from the past season. Again, didn't watch that season of The Bachelor, but it was supposed to be one person. Ended up being, well, supposed to be two other people. They, I guess, declined. At least Maria declined, and ended up being Jen. And I think like that change was kind of last minute or something. I don't freaking know. But long story short, the guys that were, signed up for the shit was just bonkers. Like I'm embarrassed. Like I have secondhand cringe from these men, to be honest. And honestly, like it's not even just the men. Like I have a few words to say about Jen too, and I think like I wanted to make this whole episode because she has her own battles with like falling into bad habits, falling into bad people. like the same people who have hurt her in the past. She like leans onto those behaviors. And again, I think a lot of it is just like how one is raised and how one grows up. But I am just, it was horrible. So before I start, I'm gonna say skip this and like, fast forward if you have not watched the finale. But if you have, like, or you don't care that I'm talking about this, come along for the ride. So basically we are in this, mansion and just watching Jen's journey to find love. And I think like the top lessons that I got from this whole season is, one, like low-key Jen was delusional. I think she had like pretty solid options before the season ended. And not for nothing, I'm gonna get to Devin because I was not having it. But I will get to Devin because I have a lot of words to say about Devin. But you could tell like Sam M was, even though I really liked him at first, like I don't know, I also like sometimes fall into some other habits of mine as well, but he was okay in the beginning. And I just, he progressed throughout the season, was kind of embarrassing. Like, he's bad with his words. And I think, like, just in general, I have mixed feelings about him. Like, he just did not get his words out correctly. And honestly, not for nothing, I don't know if he was 100% there, like, love-wise. Like, and I don't know. The only person that I think out of this whole group that easily could have won had Jen used her brain was Jonathan. And Jonathan could have been it. Like, hello, I can't even believe like she picked Jonathan over Marcus, and that just disappoints me. The last three, it was Marcus, Devin, and Jonathan, and she literally let go of Jonathan, who already like, they connected and everything, versus Marcus, who literally was like, and he said it multiple times, like, this is what not me getting heated, this is what gets me heated, is because he flat out said like multiple times, I don't know if I'm there yet with you, I don't know if I ever will, like, you're special to me, but I don't know if I'm there yet. If somebody had told me that like multiple times, and if you really listen to what he's saying, he was saying that he's not going to get there. And she was just all in Delulu land, like, like, okay, you're worth waiting for, and then waits for the last two, and then she's gonna go and drop him. Like, I don't know. And listen, I know there's all these allegations around there's so much drama around this season. Like, I'm shook, but I'm just super disappointed. And she goes and drops Jonathan. And all the other previous episodes, honestly, are like, you don't need to know about if you haven't even watched it, and I'm like summarizing it for you. But she drops Jonathan. Then it's just Marcus and Devin. And like all these things unfold where she finally drops him. You're like, okay, it's Devin and Jen. Like, it's pretty obvious they're gonna get married. Like, this is it. Or get engaged. But come to find out, like, in the final like live event, which I was shook. Like, apparently when they finished the show after they got engaged, he like completely changed his behavior, stopped talking to her, like didn't even show how much he loved her the same way that he was portraying on TV, which I think is bonkers. Like, he played the part. Like, I am shook. I can't believe that happened. And I don't have no words, but like, I just don't know how to formulate them, because Devin really played the entire world. And I think like my biggest issue with this season, and honestly like ABC in general, is they treated Jen so horribly. Like, first of all, they put Jen and Devin, like after the episode, the live event, they put them together to talk about what happened, and she's bawling her eyes out. Like, clearly she's uncomfortable. One, it's so cringe to watch because, I feel like this could have been a private conversation. Now, granted, I think Devin like didn't allow it to be a private conversation, but I like I was so uncomfortable watching it. And before they even showed the proposal, which, let me rewind, the proposal was like actually really cute, which was heartbreaking to watch because obviously we watched it after the fact. But we were able to see that Jen decided to propose, like a woman proposing. And granted, that's more popular nowadays, but it's still a huge deal. And so she did it, and then he proposed as well, and it looked so happy, and I feel so sad for her because it genuinely looked like a real life thing, like real love, like this is forever thing. And then obviously before that scene, we sit down and we find out all the stuff that Devin, like, he completely did a 180. And I just can't believe, like, okay, I understand it's a show, but these people are real people. And I truly, like, I don't know how someone can just fake it till they make it through the show and then call it quits. Like, Jen had such a genuine, like, goal to find true love and to break the patterns of people who just constantly kept leaving her. And I don't know, I'm just very sad about it. And the reason why I'm like, the biggest reason why I'm upset with ABC is they asked her if she wanted to watch the proposal. Like, after they literally hashed it out, she was sobbing her eyes out and, like, upset, like, clearly upset. The host, Jesse, he was like, oh, does everyone want to watch the proposal now? Like, should we play it? What do you think? And she literally is, like, sobbing her eyes, and she's like, you know, do I have a choice? And of course she doesn't. But, like, the fact that she even said that, I feel like they should have at least, like, pulled her away or, like, didn't make her watch it, because the whole time that they were replaying this proposal, they were showing that she was sobbing. Like, it was so cringe. I'm like, bruh, I can't watch that. Like, it was so bad. But then basically, like, the show ended and whatever. But she, like, I guess as a way for ABC to apologize, whatever that means to them, she was able to get a spot in Dancing with the Stars. And again, I don't watch all that shit. Like, I'm done after this, but I can't believe that, like, the first time an Asian American is on this season, and the show, honestly, the first time that an Asian American is the lead, they did her so dirty, gave her such horrible candidates, first of all. Like, come on. It was just all bad, honestly. And a lot of them were, like, a little bit younger. I don't know. But anyways, that is pretty much my almost 13-minute summary of why I hate that show and why this whole season upset me. And honestly, like, I'm really upset that they didn't handle that better. Why would, you know, like, it's traumatizing to rewatch what you thought was going to be forever. I don't know why people would find that, you know, amusing or entertaining, because it's not to me, and I understand why it could be entertaining, but I don't know. I think it was just all bad. Well, kind of circling into that, I just wanted to, you know, talk about, like, how we can get out of bad habits, because I think, like, especially during this episode, like, you could see that she was starting to follow, like, her previous behaviors, because one, I mean, not for nothing, it's what we're comfortable with. Like, if that is what we know, and from experience, that's where, like, it's kind of like fear of the unknown. We already have experienced this before, that, like, it's really not a different feeling. So as humans, I understand why we lean into that, but, you know, when things go south, especially in relationships and friendships and our interactions, I feel like there's ways that we can try to, you know, change the habits. And I think it starts with just, like, being proactive about it. I know it's hard to do, but starting with honestly admitting, one, that it's happening. And that's a very basic, like, intro step. And sometimes we can't figure that out on our own. And that's totally normal, totally okay. But sometimes we need the help of somebody. And I think, like, if you really want to change, you'd make the effort for it. And I guess, like, that requires you to actually, like, go and try to talk to somebody. Like, I'm talking about therapy, or honestly, like, a friend or a family member who sees maybe what you don't see. And I think it was important, like, watching this show, like, she had her brother to lean on, and her brother was, like, honestly painfully honest with her. And I think we all need somebody like that in our life. And that's where we kind of can try to, like, have somebody look at us from the outside and give us another perspective. Because again, when we live with the same, like, repetitive behaviors, repetitive habits, like, it's really hard to see sometimes. Like, maybe at first you're like, this is kind of questionable, toxic, like, not a good idea. But sometimes we don't really understand, or, like, see on the outside that what it is toxic behavior or negative behavior, or honestly just bad for your mental health. And I think that once you are able to identify that, like, there's things that you can start practicing. And I think, like, just the fact that you are aware that you have bad, habits that you lean into, or bad qualities, or you always get caught in, bad relationships or friendships where it's not ever about you or your happiness. I think, like, once you recognize that, you are able to, pick up bad habits or pick up bad qualities, and kind of just, like, being very proactive and being hyper aware of your interactions. Like, I know it's very easy to talk to people and get lost in, like, the conversation, but having, like, emotional intelligence, I think in general, like, forget about personal life, like work too, it becomes very easy to, like, weed out who's worth your attention, your effort, and in general just, like, what's better for you and your happiness, that I think, like, we often forget, and we get very lost in that. Like, but once you figure out those qualities, the harder part is disrupting yourself from following that path. And that's where it gets tricky, because something's bad for you, and that's where it gets really difficult. But it's funny that as humans we lean into our past behavior and follow that direction, even though it's, like, painful for us. But the crazy thing is, we already know it hurts us, so, like, why do we do it? It's oftentimes a self-destructive cycle. And I think that sometimes, especially when it comes to, like, friendships and relationships, sometimes we have to do the uncomfortable thing and not follow what we usually do. I think that's the hardest part, like, just risking it all, jumping into the water without knowing what's in it. But that this one direction has led you to a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain, a lot of, like, issues. So if this is new, if it's a different direction, maybe you can try to figure that out. Like, maybe this new friendship, this new behavior or quality about somebody is more beneficial than the ones that have hurt you in the past. So I think that's something else too. And because of that, like, you're almost able to replace what you're leaning on with something else and looking at it differently. Like, for example, if you are the type to, lean into people who don't put their 100% effort with you, like, you put your heart and soul into your plans with them, into always being available when they have issues, and, like, just always being there. But when the tables are turned, the effort is not reciprocated. You run into somebody who already is, let's say, like, the first month or so of your friendship, already is talking more about their lives and not quite asking you about how your life's doing. It's a perfect moment to practice that kind of mindful habit of, like, okay, I already have enough people in my life that are, like, not giving me what I want in that aspect, and they follow the same behavior. So it might be the time to, you know, cut that out or not get too close, or really just try to find different people who have different, behaviors with their friendships and relationships. And I think sometimes when we do that, it's hard, but I think like the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. So in a past episode that I've used, it's called Think Before You Speak. It's really similar because it's like a habit. Like the more that you do it, the more you're able to like, just put it into practice. So again, it just starts with that. And I think like being able to be the change is like always the harder step. But if we just keep practicing and like prevent our brains from going into autopilot, like growing up, I feel like I've used and it's crazy because we get busier growing up, right? But before I was a full-time employee, I feel like in college, like my brain, even though school is still challenging for your brain, but we were a lot younger. I feel like there was so much more awareness and so much more like decision making that I had when I was interacting with people, when I was like making friends or just like making plans with people or putting myself first. I feel like there was so much more effort and thought put into it that I wonder if like as we get older, our brain just starts to go into autopilot. And not for nothing, the routine definitely like triggers that. And I think that because we are kind of molded into this 9 to 5 lifestyle and just usual routine that constantly just over and over. And I feel like that even more like the importance of a routine is even more important when you have kids. Like I feel like because of that, our brain already knows what's happening next, and we don't get to like realize that we're on autopilot. So we stick to the same behaviors, we stick to the same like negative habits and toxic traits that we find with people because it's just so much work to do the opposite. That's plain and simple. Like it's just too much work to go outside of your usual behaviors or usual expectations. And I think in a way that like that hurts you in the end because you don't really get to like realize that there is something about the people around you or something around the like your relationships and something in the air about the people around you that just are not the vibes, like not good for your health, not good for you physically or not mentally. Like there's something there. And that being said, like the saying of teaching an old dog new tricks, you can't do it. I feel like it sits heavier on my chest as the years go because it really is. It's true. Like I hate to admit it, but God forbid something goes out of what I usually do or something's different about how I usually think, it sets me off guard. And that's just because, statistically speaking, we just do what we've done. And again, it's because we're so comfortable. We know we're not going to get hurt by following an old pattern, but that's where it gets hard because sometimes you just have to keep going at it. Like persistence is key when it comes to this. And I'm not talking about just like routine wise, but when you are meeting new people or going on dates or, trying to make new friends, that is the perfect time to really like keep consistent to one, what you're looking for in terms of a healthy like friendship or a relationship, and two, just trying to make sure that the people around you have the same values as you. And I think that stands so strongly with just like having friends because you want to surround yourself with people who have the same like values as you, and like just making sure that everyone around you is kind of in the same headspace because like it's hard to explain exactly, but sometimes when you are surrounded by like bad habits, bad vibes, bad people, it's very difficult to like go outside the normal route, because one, nobody's there to motivate you to do it. And two, you know, you're not going to be able to feel comfortable like doing what's outside the norm because people will judge you. And that is exactly why you have to like kind of just keep persistent with it. And it's just part of it. Like, one thing is, you can't beat yourself up for falling into the same behavior, falling in love with the same person all over again, because it's just how we are as people. But it's important to recognize that it's not beneficial for you, and like keep trying, because just like working out, just like eating healthy, you will mess up sometimes, and that's totally okay. But it's a matter of like just consistently trying to be different, that I think will benefit all of us in the long run, because that way we almost feel like we're empowered, right? Like, especially when we're in toxic relationships or friendships, it's really hard to get out of sometimes. And I think that that's the hardest part, like either upsetting somebody or just trying to break free from the shell that has like encapsulated you for so long. And by like just being proactive and identifying and just like realizing that that's not what you want, it actually helps so much more. So that's all I can say on that. And I think that when we start to, realize what's going on and try to like be proactive and trying to like pick out those things, you'll start to see that it's kind of crazy, but there's surprisingly people in your life that don't follow what you are looking for, follow your expectations. And it's really important to have these conversations with yourselves, because you don't realize that like some of these people really are bringing you down or hindering you down, and sometimes they don't want the best for you, and you don't realize it until you get into this whole self-awakening like situation, when you realize that really there's some people in your life that just aren't meant to be in your life. And you really have to face these challenges, and it makes you a stronger person. End of the day, like, don't forget that it makes you a stronger person, like realizing what's good for you and what's not. And I think that especially as we're getting older, like, these are really important conversations to have with ourselves, because, and not for nothing, like when kids start to get introduced into the picture, it's like something you have to ask yourself too, like, what types of behaviors do I want exposed to my children? Like, is this beneficial for me? Not just me now at this point, but is this beneficial for somebody who is raising somebody else? Like, the kids remember everything. Like, I swear, from the minute they like have a conscious, they literally like, they can remember anything and everything, like behaviors and little things that go on, and even just how you speak to people. That's exactly why I think that like it's more important now, especially, but also to just like invest in yourself before introducing a kid to the world, because that's just so important as well. Like, having that self-awareness is something that you can pass on to the future kids. And I think that that's also an important reason why we need to figure that out for ourselves. If you feel like you're, not in the right headspace, or you just feel off about somebody or something, like, now's the right time to do it. And again, I say now's the right time as if you're running out of time, but you're not. Anybody in their 20s can start this at any time. And even if you aren't in your 20s or you're about to leave your 20s, like, you can start at any point and really like try to identify and address what is unhealthy about you and just make you a better person. And all of the great relationships and friendships start with you on the inside, and how you react to things and how you support people. And once you support yourself and love yourself, that is when people will gravitate towards you, the right people, the people that follow your values and match them. And that is how it's going to happen. And it can happen anytime, and we can have fallbacks, totally normal. But as long as we keep trying, like, that's the most important part. So I definitely want to like add this to my goals for this month, and I wanted to start doing this like every beginning of the month to kind of go over like my goals for the month and just talk about things that I'm looking forward to, and then at the end of the month like talk about if I did reach those goals and see if we got there. But a few things that I've listed down for stuff I want to get done, especially in this current month, is to one, read 2 books. Very basic. I think I've started adding like personal goals, meaning like learn a song or read 2 books, but I want to finish Throne of Glass and the next book after Throne of Glass. And I like having smaller goals because that helps me like feel better if I don't accomplish it, but it also feels amazing when you do accomplish it. And like, not to be corny, but that saying that's like smart metrics. I think scalable, measurable. I don't know what the rest of it is, but similarly, like what I'm doing with my goals, that's what it is. For health and fitness, I want to work out 3 to 4 times a week and take 3 to 4 Pilates classes. And that is not a lot. Listen, speaking of Pilates, I just started Pilates and we will see how this goes this month. Not gonna lie, it's like low-key expensive. So we will try to see like what if it's any good. I went to one intro session and it hurt my back because one, I don't have core strength like at all. But I've seen Pilates do wonders to people with just like building their core, toning them up, and I'm really excited to do that. So we will see. And that's the health and fitness. I want to drink 3 water bottles full of water. Again, very basic, small goal, but measurable. And I think it's a 16-ounce water bottle. Pretty sure. So that's what I want to do. And then for music, I want to learn this song that my sister requested that I don't have the name for right now, but it's from, I think, an anime. I might be completely wrong, but it's a song she requested me to learn. So I want to, learn it and see if I can figure that out. Then in terms of finance, I want to cut down my debt by 5%. 5% is not much, and I don't think I've talked about my debt in a very long time, so I probably will make an episode at some point, but would love to cut that down as much as I can this month. And just given the expectation that it is going to be a much longer term process, I would like to at least prioritize paying it down within like the next 2 or 3 months before the new year, and just go from there. And I think like in general, I just want to have a better mindset of things, like just because things go out of routine. And I think the biggest example is like next week, I normally go into the office twice a week, and the commute is like 2 hours one way, which I have said and complained about so many times, but I was pretty much informed that I had to come in 4 times next week. And it's, people listening are probably like, oh, 4 times, like lucky you that you get to work from home 2 times a week or 3 times a week. But that commute it's not easy. Like, I'm tired half of the time, but granted, I want to find the bright side of things, like take it as a productive situation and, try to be mindful about that and treat myself a little easier next week, and don't get frustrated if I don't have energy to work out. So I'm just trying to be gentle with myself. Like, these goals are, not something to be disappointed about over when it's the end of the month, but it just helps me like keep myself grounded. And I think like everyone listening should have some goals. It's nice to like try to work towards something, and it could be anything. But that is my list for this month. Stay tuned for the end of the month, and let's see how it'll be when we get there. And all the things that'll happen. I'm just really excited for all the events. And by the time I'll talk to you guys next week, I'm going to be 28, which is incredible. Like almost there to 30. Like it's weird and I don't want to feel old, but here we are. So yeah, that is it for today's episode, and thank you guys so much for listening. I will catch you all next week.